Disclaimer: this video contains content not suitable for all audiences. Viewer discretion is advised. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use, for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education and research. No copyright infringement intended. All credits belong to their rightful owners.
Welcome everyone, M.U.G.E.N back again with another video, and today I'm going to be speaking. And for this video, I'm going to be talking about lost KOF characters for M.U.G.E.N. Basically characters that are now offline and haven't been archived or just weren't saved in any way. I know a lot of you don't like M.U.G.E.N Archive or even hate it, but don't get me wrong, I can see why. And honestly, I don't like M.U.G.E.N Archive myself, but I do like a few things about it. One of those things being archiving old M.U.G.E.N content that's not available to the public anymore. Content that's been deleted, or had their links expire, or just simply nowhere to be found. It's like preserving a relic from the past. Although we may not be able to save everything, we can still save what we can. Of course, countless characters were made throughout the years, so not everything's gonna be saved, but we can still try. It's also worth noting that a lot of these characters are really old, and you most likely never heard of them. But that's kind of what makes them special. I'm a huge sucker for the KOF community, and I just tend to value any KOF related characters. Aside from that, I'm going to go over a few things about this video. I'm going to have a little status ranking system depending on the information I find of the character. I'm going to rank their status based on one of three levels. The first status level is mostly lost, so of course this is going to apply to characters that are lost but have some proof of their documentation. The second status level is partially lost, so this applies to characters that are that have some things found. And the third status level is existence unknown, which is going to be applied to characters that are not confirmed to exist or have very little or even no proof of existing. I'm also not going to be including private characters, as they're not exactly lost, they're just limited on who can get their hands on them. However, private characters where the whereabouts are unknown, if any, will be included on this list. Also, I apologize if there's any misinformation in this video. Sometimes I can get all my information mixed up. Just let me know or correct me down in the comments below. But without further ado, let's get on with the video. Riguria Eisenhower, boss version, also known as this, by Suyazuka Rakudai. Not to be confused with the original version, as that version has already been found. I'm talking about a lesser known boss version of this character that has never been archived, as far as I've seen. This character dates back to the DOS era of M.U.G.E.N, and it kinda shows. The original version was a pretty bare bones character, only having one move, which was just Rugo's God Press, and a level 1 super and a level 2 super, but those were just repeats. The boss version of this character, however, has more moves, more supers, just more of everything. I couldn't find any download links to this character, only download links to the original non-boss version of this character. The only thing that remains of this character are just some screenshots and 2 videos by Justice1919. As a little bonus to this segment of the video, I managed to find an archived page of the original creator's website, and I ended up finding a character named Karmain. There's nothing of this character but the portrait. Overall, I would consider this version of Riguria mostly lost, as there's almost nothing of this character, but on the other hand, it could also be considered partially lost, as the original version is archived. As for Karmain, I would say existence unknown, as there's pretty much nothing of this character aside from the portrait, so there's no proof whether there was any progress done or not. Diana by Leekun, WK, Ryu, William, and Zelgadis. Okay, so there's been multiple versions of this character done by different people, and a lot of them range from being crappy to below average, to say the least. This one was no exception, having stiff looking sprites, missing frames, and unoriginal moves, typically copy pasted over from characters like Foxy and Kula. This was one of the first Dianas for MUGEN. I think it even predates Sky 79's version, and that's the most popular, which is why I do want to try to find it. Going to the original download page, you're met with a send space link, but it has since been expired. The only thing that remains of this version of the character is a video and 2 screenshots. The KOF anthology edit is still around, but it's just not the same. Overall, this character is partially lost, as you still got the KOF anthology version, but as I said right before this, it's just not the same. Grail by Hanma. So just like the previous entry, I'm gonna keep this brief. So about this Grail character, he's actually part of a whole story found through Hanma's blog site, which I'm not gonna go over because it will take too long. However, you'll find various pieces of fan art related to him. As far as the character goes, there's not much remains, only a few screenshots and some gameplay footage I managed to find. At first I thought this character was completely lost, but as it turns out, there is another character in existence called Azel. Looking further into him, he's actually a sprite swap of Grail, and there's even some remnants in his files. As far as this character goes, I'll consider him partially lost. The original character might not still be around, but Azel is essentially just a sprite swap minus a few bugs. I would also like to note that Azel resembles another lost character, which you're about to see. Zayo by SBA. SBA has quite a number of characters and projects that never saw the light of day, one of the most sought after being Zayo, who also appears to be the most completed of the bunch. As far as what remains of the character, there's not really much, as there's only 3 videos by SBA himself. I also don't believe that there was ever any download link, and the only way to obtain the character at the time was via email, or this character just simply never got released. But I do believe it's still out there somewhere, maybe in an old forum, or someone still has it on a hard drive. I mean, you never know. For instance, there was another character that SBA was making called Assessed, which was a remake of an already existing character. At first I thought the character was gone forever, until it was randomly uploaded. So that means there is possibly still a chance to obtain this character. What seemed like was lost forever has since been resurfaced. So I believe that this character still can be found. I wanted the character so badly that I even tried to recreate him, but this kind of fell through because my coding skills were pretty bad at the time. Like I said before, I believe he's still lingering around somewheres, but for the time being, I'm gonna say he's mostly lost, as nothing else has since been resurfaced. Dark Krauser, unknown author. Okay, so I don't actually have proof of this character, and for all I know, it could be a false memory, but just bear with me. So basically, around late 2016 and early 2017, I was watching some KOF related MUGEN videos, and one of them, I remember seeing a Krauser edit. It was like a Krauser with like different colored skin and with red eyes. He was also seen fighting in an Orochi like stage full of clouds and stuff like that. And then I also remember his Blitzball move being replaced with an electric ball reminiscent of that of Rugel's. And that's all I really have on the character. Not really much to say aside from this mock-up. I'm also not confusing this character with Nightmare Krauser. I already knew the difference between the two at the time. And that's all I remember from the video, if any. Again, this could be a false memory. I also remember the video didn't have that many views to begin with, and it's probably gone by now. In the end, for this character, I'm gonna say existence unknown, since I have no proof of this existing, and the fact that I can only recall this once. Demetra by Evolution, aka Miguel MS. Now this character is kind of interesting. It's a female Zero edit with pink electric powers. It also seems to be a whip that never saw the light of day. Kinda too bad since the character doesn't look that bad. As far as what remains of this character, there's only one video. The only other piece of information I could find was a comment by the creator himself saying that the character was 50% completed. And then a portrait render by Orochi Darkio. Looks pretty good honestly. In the end, I'm gonna have to say that this character is mostly lost due to the lack of updates. Kinda too bad because this looks like it could have been a good female Zero edit. However, it's not the only female Zero edit that's lost. Ziroko, unknown author. There's really like no information on this character, aside that it apparently got overshadowed by White Ziroko, also known as Fyro Null, which is the Ziroko that we all know of. This version of the character looks like it's going for the more King of Fighters art style instead of the Melty Blood looking one, and I assume that this is a sprite swap of Gonzo's Clone Zero, but that's just an assumption. And the reasoning is because the person who originally uploaded this video also made a video with Go and Nico, which is a sprite swap of Go-Nits by Gonzo, which was made by Doomed Man. So it kinda leads me to believe that this was made by Doomed Man, but at the same time, I have no way to confirm this and it's just an assumption. As far as what remains of this character, only one video exists to my knowledge. And with that, I say that this character is mostly lost, only because this is the only remnants of their existence. Various characters by Oscar12345. Okay, so there's gonna be multiple entries for this segment of the video, but I'm gonna try to keep them brief so that I won't drag on the video for too long. Also note that these are characters that I found, and it's not a guarantee that it's all of Oscar's missing characters, because for all we know, there could be more out there, but these are just the ones I found. Up first, we have two versions of Bao. As far as I know, these are the only two screenshots in existence, and I couldn't find anything else on these two characters. Same thing applies to his Alfred, and to my knowledge, this is the only screenshot of him. And then we have both versions of his Chun-Li. One of them's an edit of Sep's version, as for the other, is an edit of Jay Lee's Chun-Li. These are the only two screenshots of both of them, and then I managed to find footage of one of these versions in action. After that, we have his version of Go-Nits. As far as what remains of the character, there's only one screenshot and two pieces of footage I managed to find, which shows off some of his combos and some new moves. Honestly, I think I would have had fun with this one. And then we have his version of Lauren's Blood, which is one of the bosses from the Fatal Fury games. I honestly would like to find this character, only because I actually like to play as Lawrence in the Fatal Fury games. As of what remains of this character, I could only find this one piece of footage. Up next, we have his version of Zero Kirishima, which is just one of the many Zero Kirishimas out there. Still though, I would still like to see what he had to offer. As of what remains of this character, I could only find two videos where he was featured. After him, we have Malenko. And you're probably asking, wasn't Malenko already found? And wasn't he made by 119way? Oscar was the original creator of him. 119way just edited him. This original version also had moves that did not make it to 119way's version. And of course he acts a bit differently. As of what remains of this character, I could only find these two videos showing the original version. Up next we have Orochi-Ryo. And you're probably asking, wasn't he already found? Well, the truth is, that was an unfinished version that was found. This version, however, is a more completed version. So you can see he has a different standing animation and actually has a completed moveset. As of what remains of this character, there's only two videos I managed to find, and that's pretty much it. And since he's more completed, he doesn't have all those leftovers from Oscar's Shingo. Speaking of which, at last we have both versions of new Shingo. One of these versions uses Kusanagi as a base and gives Shingo a new moveset. As far as what remains of this character, there's actually quite a few pieces of footage. There's even a page I found with a list of lost characters, and within that list, I did manage to find a mention of this new Shingo. However, there's no download link or anything, so this is kinda where it ends. As for the other version of new Shingo, it uses KFM as a base, and acts a bit different compared to the other version of new Shingo. As far as what remains of this version, I could only find this one video. However, these two versions of new Shingo were eventually edited by 119way, and you can still see some remnants between the two, and the edited versions. However, they're not the same though. And that's pretty much it for Oscar's characters, at least the ones I could find. I tried to see if there was any alternative download links to these characters, or any more information, but they weren't really any help, so this is the best I was able to find. When it comes to ranking these characters, both versions of Bao, I would say, is mostly lost, only because there's not much of their existence. Same thing applies to Alfred, Chun-Li, Go-Nits, Seo, and Lawrence, which all have barely anything of their existence. As for Malenko, he's only partially lost, only because you still got 119way's edit, but it's just not the same. Orochi-Ryo is also partially lost, as you still got an earlier version that's been found. As for both versions of new Shingo, they're partially lost. Just like Malenko, you can still find 119way's edits of both of them, but also just like Malenko, they're not exactly the same. Various Characters by KZ. Okay, so now we're really getting into old stuff again. Just like Oscar's segment, I'm gonna add multiple entries to this segment, but it won't be as long. Anyways, KZ is an author from the DOS era of MUGEN, and he's made some of the very first KOF OCs for MUGEN, or just KOF characters in general, and a lot of his stuff has been saved already. However, there's a few projects that haven't been saved. So starting off we have Mature, which I believe was KZ's first character. However, nothing really remains of this character, and the original download link is dead, so we only got this one sprite to go off. However, you can still find remnants of her and one of KZ's other characters, Nazo. My best bet is that she would have had a different moveset, knowing KZ's characters. Up next we have Shingo, although there's nothing of this character aside from a mention on the download page. There also appears to be a Vanessa edit that's unnamed, or it could have just been a simple conversion of Vanessa. Either way, there's nothing of this character besides this sprite on the download page. And now we're going to move on to the more interesting entries. So up next we have Trish, an OC of KZ's. My best bet is that she would have been based on Trish from the Devil May Cry series, as KZ already made a Dante character that shares similar traits to Dante from Devil May Cry. As for what remains of Trish, there's only a couple screenshots, but that's pretty much it. And now moving on to Johnny Bomber, which is supposed to be like a brawler-like character. He kinda reminds me of my Sid in some ways. However, just like Trish, there's only some screenshots that remain. And in the case of Trish and Johnny Bomber, according to some sources, they were never released. However, I did manage to find an old webpage that had character icons for Trish and Johnny. So even if they weren't released, were they passed around by any chance? Who knows. In the case of Mature, I'm gonna say that she's mostly lost, as nothing much remains of the character, and the only download link is dead. In the case of Shingo, I'm gonna say existence unknown, as only his name is mentioned, and to my knowledge there's no download links. The same thing can be said about the Vanessa character too, as there's only a sprite referencing her. In the case of Trish, I'm gonna say that she's mostly lost, due to the fact that there's only screenshots to go by, and that there was no download link to this character. Same thing applies to the Johnny Bomber character. Speaking of Johnny, he looks similar to another lost character, Enzo by DeviantArt. Now for the last entry for this video, but before we proceed any further, I also want to note that DeviantArt might not be the original author, as according to the Metal Warrior, he claims that DeviantArt is a thief. However, I'm not going to go too much into this, and I'm just going to simply talk about the character. So here we have another brawler character similar to Johnny Bomber from the previous segment. It could also be possible that this was a rare character intended for trade, but that's just an assumption. As of what remains of this character, there's actually quite a few videos of him in action. However, unlike the previous entries, there's actually some download links to this character. The problem is that the file is encrypted, so if you're gonna extract it, you need a password. However, DeviantArt, also known as Hugo, claims that he forgot the password. So that's pretty much all we're left with, a character that can't be extracted. In the case of Enzo, I'm gonna say that he's partially lost, as his character file has been uploaded, but as of yet, we still don't have a password for him, so he kinda remains inextractable for the time being. And with that, we have reached the end of this video. Before I end the video, like I said in the beginning, I apologize if there's any misinformation in this video, and I also apologize if any of the segments seemed rushed. I also did include some information that I should have included, like the time and dates. And if y'all have any more information on these characters, let me know down in the comments, so that way, if I were to make a sequel to this video, I can update the information for the characters in the next video. But aside from that, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see y'all next time.